Mariameno Kapa-Kingi.
Tēnā koe te pika, tēnā tātou katoa te whare. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak to this shameful report that's come out of the Auditor General's office regarding Oranga Tamariki. So I'll start my comments with this. Congratulations to the Minister for Children, another failure on your watch. Under your leadership, care and supposed protection. This is not a rumour, it's not gossip, Mr. Speaker. The Office of the Auditor General has just told us so in an extremely damning report. So what are we to make of it, Mr. Speaker? Well, there's only one thing we can make of it, to be completely honest, and that is the Minister took her eyes off the ball and focused on targeting mokopuna Māori and their whānau by diminishing their culture, customs and practices, suggesting that safety is more important than those things. Culture and custom are critical protective factors, and that would be known to the Minister and probably anyone else that's muttering to the left of me. If they read new material, they understood the evidence and they know the reality of Māori, mokopuna and their whānau. It seems to me, particularly to the left of me, that that's just misunderstood and probably best to disregard it, I would say. The other thing that's happened in this regard too, to get it to this point, is that the personal experience of the Minister, I think, had far too much to do with the lawmaking and resource of things, so particularly when it comes to mokopuna Māori. If safety of the child was truly the priority of the Minister, why has an urgent inquiry by the Auditor General into Oranga Tamariki's procurement and contract management processes revealed? It's such a blatant disregard for the safety of children reliant on care providers. We have heard the Minister repeatedly claim to be refocusing on Oranga Tamariki and child safety. This being the only piece of evidence she seemed to need in the removal of Section 7AA, her own opinion. To discover that poor contract management and flawed procurement processes have endangered our most vulnerable tamariki is utterly shameful, and I would suggest one hangs one's head when you recognise that. No risk assessment or meaningful consideration was undertaken when the Minister pushed through major funding cuts that directly affected the very providers responsible for supporting tamariki and their whānau. These funding cuts were made without credible evidence, and when contracts were cancelled, Mr. Speaker, as a result, Oranga Tamariki dumped the responsibility of relocating tamariki and their whānau back onto the providers and said, you did a very poor job. The fact that we didn't fund you accurately or properly, that's not on us, that's all on you. And when things inevitably fell apart, which is what they do when things happen like this, it always lands, the result is always harm to mokopuna and their whānau. I bring attention to these findings, Mr. Speaker, because te iwi Māori are too often consumed and having to survive all of this nonsense and churn inside a system such as Oranga Tamariki. The Auditor General's inquiry outlined 4 recommendations for the Minister and Oranga Tamariki to implement to prevent that disaster, and that was last year's contracting rounds. I can tell you right now, zero of that has occurred, and again it comes back to what our families, what our mokopuna and what our hapu have to contend with at the end of the day. It's poor management. I used to be a funder assessor back in the 90s, that's quite a while ago, and at that time, I mean, the process, you had to have a Section 403 and a Section 396, and these were good things that we were able to do to get community providers into the game, looking whānau for whānau, Māori for Māori. Those things worked. Those things are gone now, Mr. Speaker. So I'm confident in saying this, as survivors of abuse, I just want to mention this, but in care, are yet to see, yet again, any of the recommendations from the Whanakaitia report. Another failing, another ignoring the truth that comes from survivors, and unfortunately this is the result that particularly mokopuna and their whānau are having to deal with and suffer on a daily basis. Mr Speaker. So I raise these in this general debate with the hope and implore the Minister to recognise and take note. So tēnā koe, Mr Speaker.